Hello, I'm Indiana Joe and welcome to Blog Around Britain. Now, for the past few weeks, as you know, we've been going through step by step looking at some of the different types of fossils. Now, for this week, because our topic, permineralization and petrification, is such a big there's so many things that are included in it, I thought we'd give it a shot and try and do a little film with lots of examples to try and help you along. Like I say, this is an experiment, so I don't know how well it's going to go, but we'll give it a shot and find out. So, the first thing that we looked at was, of course, karst fossils, like this ammonite here. You can remember it was when you had an imprint, and that impression got filled up with a different type of mineral, and so you end up with a karst. Very close to that, you have your mould fossil as well, and we've got an example which we actually used in the segment on mould fossils. This is that ammonite from the Himalayas, and you can see when you break it open, you've got your karst fossil on one side and your mould fossil on the other side. The mould is where the creature was, and the karst is where it's been filled in. So this week we've been talking about petrification. So let's start with one of the most common types that people actually know about, petrified wood. Now I've got a very nice example here from the USA. This is a nice example of petrified wood. Now, it's really, really detailed. In fact, if you found it lying on the ground until you picked it up, and obviously this side has been polished, you wouldn't really know that it wasn't just a bit of wood. You can even still see all of the rings going through it. But when you look closely, you do see it is made of rock, and it is made of minerals. You can feel that when you pick it up. It is very, very heavy. And if you look closely, you can even see like little parts of the minerals, parts of the calcite and the silica that are inside it. Now, there's a lot of silica already in wood when it's alive and growing, so it's makes quite a bit of sense that that silica would actually be part of the mineral that helps preserve that wood. So what's happened here is you've had a certain chemical condition that's happened because it's been buried in the right sediment. You've ended up having all the minerals go into the wood and turn it into a stone. It is now a fossil. It is stone. The silica and the minerals that are already in the wood go through a chemical reaction, and you end up with a solid fossil like this. So what other petrified things can you have? Well, that's one of the more common types, but there is another type of petrification, which is usually with plants, and it's when they end up getting what we call carbonized. You get a carbon film. Now, I've got a few examples of this, quite a large one to begin with. Now, this is one that I collected from up at Whitby, and you can see this big plant in here. Well, this is actually a cycad. Now, we know it's a cycad because we still have them alive today. You see, they are what we call living fossils. Any fossil that is exactly identical and alive today, and it matches completely with the fossil ones, we call them living fossils. And there are quite a lot of them. We'll be talking about living fossils in a few weeks' time. It's going to be a new topic I'm going to start on. But for now, what you can see here is there's not actually a lot to this fossil. It's not sort of hard and chunky like the fossil wood was, but it's quite thin and flat. What's happened here is the cycad has got caught up, the leaves have got caught up, buried in the right type of rock, remember, the right type of sediment. Remember, it's all about process. It's been buried very quickly, and we can tell that because it's so detailed. It hasn't had the time to get destroyed, so it's been buried and fossilized very, very quickly. It's a living fossil, and it's made up of this very, very thin film. And this is basically the carbon that is in plants. Plants are mostly made up of carbon. And as it's been compressed, it's gone through another chemical reaction, a different type of chemical reaction, and you've ended up having the carbon be preserved in the rock. So the plant is still sort of there, but only the carbon that was in it. So you get these wonderful jet black fossils. Like I say, that one is actually up from Whitby in the Whitby plant beds. And you get other types of permineralization in plants as well, and petrification. This is another type of petrification. This is actually another living fossil, even though they're not quite exactly in this form. This is a horsetail. Modern ones are quite thin, quite sort of sticky, sort of a bit like sort of water reeds or something. They're quite thin, but they are exactly identical to these ones, only these ones from the past were much, much bigger. In fact, that's a general trend you see in fossils. They've either stayed the same, they've gone extinct, or they've got smaller. when compared to their modern relatives. So here this is a nice big one, but here you can see all of the details are perfectly preserved, but this is stone. It's been petrified, turned into stone. The minerals have got inside and individually, bit by bit, have mineralized it, turned it into stone. This is another one of the same type. It's a little bit smaller, but you can see the sort of the lovely silvery sort of shimmer it's got to it. This is in fact almost coal. So you can get other types of petrification as well. Lots and lots of different types of petrification in wood. This is just one example. To show you some other examples, you can get some of the ones from Madagascar. Ones like this. Look at that lovely, deep, dark coloration that you can get. Again, it's exactly the same kind of process as the other fossil wood, but it's been done in slightly different minerals, which what make all these gorgeous colours. But it is stone. It is very heavy, and it has been turned into stone, bit by bit. You can get all sorts of different other colours. Here's another bit of petrified wood. This time a nice big bit. Look at that. Lovely, shiny, gorgeous colour. In fact, you wouldn't even know that that wasn't a piece of driftwood that you find lying around if it wasn't for the fact of the weight of it and the fact that this has been polished as well. They are perfect, spot on, exactly like they would have been when they were alive. Just a lot heavier and, of course, stone. So I've got a couple of other little fun things to look at in terms of petrification, petrified fossils. So the first one is quite a special one, and it's this one here. Have you got any idea what it might be? If you thought it was some type of an egg, you would be spot on, because it is. It is in fact a dinosaur egg. This is all the way from Mongolia, near China, and it's actually from a hadrosaur dinosaur. You know, the ones with the duck-bill beaks? It's one of those big dinosaur eggs. So there is a baby dinosaur inside here. And this again has been petrified. The baby dinosaur didn't have a chance to hatch. It got buried and it got fossilized. It got petrified before it had chance to even begin to rot away or hatch or go away or anything like that. So it's actually been fully petrified. Step by step the minerals have seeped inside and you've ended up with a petrified dinosaur egg. We've got one other little petrified fossil to show you, and this one's quite a fun one. It's this one. Again, any ideas what this is? You see, I've got quite a lot of these in my collection. There's one of them. That's quite a nice sized one. But I've got some other ones over the back here. Ones like this. Ones like this. And I've even got a very, very big one like this. Any idea what it is? Well, these are, in fact, what we call coprolite. Now, some of you may have got it from that name. For those of you who didn't, coprolite is basically fossilised poo. This is fossilised dung. This one, this long one, is actually off of a turtle or tortoise. This is a fossilised turtle poo. The rest of these examples that I've shown you, including this very, very large one, is in fact dinosaur poo. Real fossil dinosaur poo. Again, petrified. It's come out of the dinosaur's backside, it's been buried and fossilised before it has a chance to rot away, and as you know, this kind of stuff doesn't hang around for very long waiting to be fossilised, but it's been permineralized, petrified. The minerals have seeped inside and have completely petrified it. It is now very heavy, it's not smelly, it's not squidgy anymore, it has actually turned to rock. And it's very useful because we can actually slice them up. And in fact, I've got a few little examples here of some sliced up ones. You can actually see here they've been sliced in half, polished, and they're really useful for working out what is inside them and working out what the last thing the dinosaur had to eat was. It tells us a lot about dinosaurs and a lot about their lifestyle and behaviour. So there's a couple of very little fun things for you. Now next week we're going to be coming back and we're going to be looking exactly at this other type of petrification, which is specifically permineralization. We've looked at it a little bit this week in terms of some of the fossilised dung, the coprolites and stuff, but in essence most of the fossils that you will find, particularly things like dinosaur bones and animal bones and all those kind of things that people really think of as fossils, they tend to be permineralized, which is a slightly different type of petrification. And it's actually surprising what you will actually be able to find out about it, and some of it may even shock you. But that's all for next week, so make sure you join us then. Hopefully this worked, hopefully you enjoyed it, and don't forget to follow me on indianajoe.blog and check out creationresearchuk.com and creationresearch.net to find out lots and lots more about the work that I do around the globe. And if you would like to come and visit us here in the Genesis Museum of Creation Research, you are very, very welcome. Log on to www.genesismuseumofcreation.com and you will be able to find the details on how to book a visit. Hope you enjoyed and see you next week.